Hey everybody, today we're going to be talking about the preference switch that happens with people in the balisong hobby. Happens to me, it probably has happened to you or will happen to you. It's happened to pretty much everybody. And I wanted to talk about it. What is this preference switch? Well, it is a preference in the weight distribution of balisongs that has happened in the community. And now, this isn't like a switch that happens over time for the whole community. This is an individual switch that happens as you improve as a flipper. And that is a switch from preferring handle bias, like this bad boy here, to preferring something more neutral. And this happens for pretty much everybody, and it's going to happen at different points in your flipping journey, but most likely it will happen as you get more balisongs and learn new tricks. You're eventually going to start to enjoy less and less handle bias. Because handle bias is great as a beginner for rollovers and, momentum-based tricks. But for everything else, it's not very useful. Like, you wouldn't be doing a lot of tech stuff with a bunch of handle bias. You can, but it's harder. That's where you're going to want something more neutral. And for me, I feel that this preference switch was really helped out by the Nautilus. Because the Nautilus, to me, is a pretty neutral balisong, especially compared to most of Squid's other products. It is on the more neutral side. It has a lot less weight in the handles, and it's very apparent that it is balanced as such. Now, I think that's quite interesting, because on Squid Industries' website, they call this a strong handle bias, and I can guarantee it is not. Of course, some people might say it's a stronger handle bias, some might say light handle bias. I'm calling it more neutral. Regardless, this is more neutral than most balisongs. And this was my favorite flipper and my only main flipper for like over a year. So I think this really is what helped to cement my preferences as being much more neutral. That and learning more tricks, I just found that they were easier on a more neutral balisong. It just rained, that's why I'm over here kind of not quite on the grass. The more neutral balisongs, it's just a preference switch that's going to happen because they're just easier to do all tricks on. Handle bias balisongs are great for doing certain tricks, but neutral balisongs can do all tricks, and they can do all tricks well, which is exactly why, as you get better at flipping, you're going to love them. A great example of this preference switch is with Blade Bias host Camaro EE. If you go back in his old videos, you can see he loves things with handle bias. He thinks that they're really good. He calls them neutral if you go back far enough. But now he calls those same balisongs he used to love to handle bias for him. He really enjoys neutral balisongs. He actually talks about this in his most recent video where he's flipping with his left hand, talking about how the preferences on his left hand are much more handle bias. And now, of course, he says he's not sure why exactly that is, but based on my theory, I would say that it is because his left hand is not as good at flipping as his right hand. So his left hand, being a more beginner, less advanced flipper, prefers handle bias. But his right hand, where he's a far more accomplished flipper, really likes neutral balisongs. And I think that difference between hand preferences perfectly shows exactly what I'm talking about. As you get better at flipping, you want less handle bias. Of course, it's not necessarily true for everyone. Some people like Will Hirsch still enjoy handle bias. However, the Vulp Pro Live Blade, not a very strong handle bias. There is a handle bias, a light one, but it's not very strong. And that's just it. I mean, we as flippers, as we get better, like more neutral balisongs. And I think that that's a really interesting thing, and I haven't really seen that being talked about anywhere. No one talks about how all of a sudden they start to prefer neutral balisongs. It just kind of happens slowly over time, and no one talks about it. And I think that's a shame, because I think it's a really cool thing that happens. Obviously, my doubles are not very good, because I don't do doubles. I am not ambidextrous in both of my hands. Some people can do doubles really well. I am not one of them. Double backhand fans. But yeah, that's pretty much all that I wanted to talk about in today's video, was that preference switch from handle bias to more neutral. I think it's really interesting. You know, I'd like to see more discussion about it. I'd love for you guys to tell me if that has happened to you. Did you switch from preferring handle bias to more neutral? You still like handle bias? You've always liked neutral? I'd just love to have some discussion on it in the comments below, because I read all the comments, like I like to say. If you leave video suggestions down there, you know, might make a video on it. No promises, but it's fairly likely. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for today's video. Hope you have all had a wonderful day, and until next time, I hope that you all keep flipping.